Hi, good afternoon. Thanks again for coming back. I'd like to introduce you to Nick Bean, who's going to speak to us next on a brief history of Carnism. Nick's quite unusual, really. He's been a vegan since he was, well, virtually from birth, 4 or 5 years old. He's become quite active in the last few years, particularly the Animal Save movement and other outreach, and that's where we met actually. And he kind of, part of his advocacy is through cooking as well. He's an amazing cook. He blogs via his veganfuture.uk website, and last year, at the end of last year, launched the fast-growing Vegan Global News, which is really worth tuning into. So, without further ado, I'll hand you over to Nick.
Thank you. Unfortunately, you've just done about half of my speech, so... Okay, well, as you said, this is me. This is when I was 4, which was just around the time when I became a vegan. Of course, I had no idea what a vegan was. I just refused to eat animals. Went to school in the 1970s and often went the whole day without eating anything. There was no veggie options back then, and you either ate what they served or you didn't eat. I was a pain in the arse to my parents, especially if we ever ate out. Sleepovers, birthday parties were difficult. I was always considered fussy, awkward, weird even. And I'm sure that most people thought I was just doing it for attention. Looking back though, I feel really lucky. I mean, I've never been ill, never broken a bone in my body. And I'm truly humbled by the growth of the movement towards veganism in recent years. And I really love being around other like-minded people, why it's such a pleasure to be here today. I'm as active as my time allows. I'm a regular at the Save vigils and the outreach events. I'm going to keep forgetting this, all right? So, I write a lot on the subject, and earlier this year, I launched VGN, and I know Steve sort of said this. It's a platform for news, but also for education. You know, I think it can be quite tough out there for younger vegans trying to defend their beliefs, and the more knowledge you have, the better advocates you'll be. And oh, that's weird. Okay, maybe I'll remove that. Right. Yeah, I learned nothing more than cooking and educating people through cooking and teaching them to cook. Anyway, that's kind of me, so that's out of the way. Right, I'd like you to think about one thing during this talk, and that is if any society lives by a moral code based on how it wants to be remembered by future generations, then it will always be the best possible version of itself. In 50, 100, 200 years from now, that's all that's really going to matter. So, here in the UK, we've always considered ourselves a nation of animal lovers. But how do we show that love? How do we express these deepest of feelings? Because I don't think for 1 minute that they believe we love them. And based on the way large majority of animals live and die in this country, and you know, I've looked in their eyes as they've been taken to their deaths, I really believe that they think that we truly hate them. We treat the animals that should be under our care far worse than we do the most horrific criminals in our society. They get a way better deal than these innocent animals that rely on us to look after them. They trust us with their lives, and we betray that trust in the very worst way possible. And just like our pets, these creatures would love us unconditionally, yet we imprison them. We break up their families. We deny them even the most basic of rights. Worst of all, we kill them. We cut them up into pieces, we cook them, and we eat them. And what makes it worse, if we stop this horrific cycle tomorrow, they would forgive us. They'd forgive us for something that even the godliest human that ever lived would consider unforgivable. Yet for profit, taste, convenience, we continue this endless cycle. You see, animals, they're not like plants or inanimate objects. In most of the important ways, they're just like us. After all, we're all animals ourselves. Each one's a unique individual with their own personality. They're someone, they're not something. And they're not just alive, they have lives. With our gifts, our wisdom, our capacity for empathy and compassion, we should be leaders. We should be leading, guiding, caring for, and ensuring the safety and survival of all creatures on this planet. Sadly though, we're an evil, greedy species, and it sometimes makes me wonder if this world would be better off without us. You see, all of us are faced with two simple options when it comes to our food choices. Both of them will more than meet our needs. One causes harm to animals and one doesn't. So why would anyone choose the one that causes harm? You wouldn't, would you? And when you learn that the choice that's bad for the animals is also bad for the environment and it's bad for your own health, it literally doesn't make any sense, especially when a better option exists. And it does. And it has a name. Our claim to be animal lovers is the greatest hypocrisy ever spoken, and we should be ashamed of ourselves for so casually throwing it around, and for no other reason than to help us live with the reality of our actions. I'm deeply ashamed of what we've allowed ourselves to become without barely a thought when it comes to the way we treat animals. I'm saddened that so many otherwise good people either choose to ignore the truth, are ignorant to it, or simply don't care. And I don't understand why I'm so completely different from the majority when in every other way we're so similar. Maybe I actually am the freak, the weirdo, the vegan. So I sometimes think about the people of the past, hundreds of years ago, and I have to believe that a big southern softie like me could never have survived in those brutal times. And just as I look back and I judge the people of the past, future generations will do the same to us one day. And they're going to find it difficult to believe that we bred, raised and slaughtered billions upon billions of animals on such an industrial scale. But maybe as a species we're just not smart enough and we need to evolve further, because this is just not the way that a truly civilised, intelligent and just society would act. And the people of the future will think us the same savages as I look back at the people of the past. What saddens me though is that in a blanket judgment I'll probably be associated with this evil when I'm gone. I won't be around to tell them that I wasn't involved and I did all I could to stop it. So I have a cunning plan. One thing that our smarter selves of the future will hopefully see is how we conditioned our children from a young age. Our parents, our loved ones, fed us the same animal products as they were fed as children. And we ate it because they never told us what it really was. If they had, my story would be the norm rather than the exception. And they fed us it out of convenience and also out of fear. There's a deep-rooted core belief in almost everyone, telling them they need to eat animals to be strong and to be healthy. And even if the facts are staring them in the face, they still have doubts, because these beliefs were installed at a very young age and by those that they trusted the most. So, humans have been eating animals for a long time. There's no argument there. But it's only relatively recently that the masses have had such easy and affordable access to much of what had long been known as the food of kings. Up until the Second World War, meat, dairy and eggs were much more of a luxury than they are today. And during the 6 years of war and the 9 years of rationing that followed, animal products were scarce. And this was a problem because scarcity fuels demand. If you could get yourself some meat, some eggs, some milk, some cheese, even if it wasn't completely legal, you took it. It was a good source of protein and fat, two of the things that were absent, or at least lacking, in many of the diets of the time. And the thing is, 15 years is a long time to live under the conditions of war and then rationing. None of us should be surprised that as it ended and everything gradually became more plentiful, this mindset remained. Meat, dairy and eggs were firmly established as not only the best food that you could eat, but also as the affluent choice. It made us feel like the kings that went before us. It became a symbol of status. If you and your family had a meat-rich diet, you'd made it. This idyllic, healthy lifestyle, this freedom, it was why we went to war in the first place. I still remember as a child my own father proudly carving the meat in readiness of our Sunday lunchtime ritual. But of course, and to my parents' huge dismay, I only ate the roast potatoes and the vegetables. And almost no one questioned it. In homes the length of the breadth of the country, families were living the post-war dream, and the meat on their plates was a symbol of their freedom and of our victory. So by the mid-70s, supermarkets were only just emerging and were nothing like the mega stores and the global businesses that they are today. Most meat was purchased from the local butcher and was relatively unprepared. Big business, though, had taken notice, and it was just getting warmed up. So with meat firmly established as a centrepiece of almost every meal, with eggs on everyone's breakfast menu, with the government giving meat to our children at school, and with a seemingly endless demand, there was an opportunity to make a fortune. People wanted more, so they gave them more. Much more. And with pound, and more importantly dollar signs, literally spinning in front of their eyes, seriously big agriculture became a license to print money. But they needed to make it affordable and accessible, which meant they needed an industrial-style production line. So with the seeds of necessity planted and growing, with their products firmly established as the affluent, the healthiest choices, and with an endless demand, farm animals became commodities rather than individuals. And if we ever had any feelings for them at all, I think it was about then that we fell out of love. And then before you knew it, there were shops selling burgers, fried chicken, kebabs, pizza opening up on every street. I remember in the town where I grew up, 2 burger bars opened right across the road from each other, and at almost the same time. It was the early 80s by now. We already had a Wimpy bar and a few other fast food places in what was relatively a small town. And these burger bars were always rammed full. People were literally queuing out the door and down the street. They wanted their meat, and they wanted as much as they could shove in their faces. Cheeseburgers, bacon burgers, double burgers, bacon double cheeseburgers, cheesy bacon, double cheeseburgers with extra cheese and bacon, and chips. Yeah, but hold the salad. It was a mighty, meaty bandwagon, and people were queuing up to jump on board. So I'm just going to slow things down a little and look at what happened next. In the 50 years between 1960 and 2010, our average weight increased by almost 2 stone. That's the average of everybody, 13 kilos. And the average woman in 2010 weighed the same as the average man did in 1960. And I don't think for 1 second that had anything to do with evolution. Now, 2 stone doesn't sound an awful lot, and it's quite hard to imagine weight. It's hard to picture weight. But I want to stress how important this is. And therefore I have a prop. Now I'd like to get you all up here to try this, but we don't really have time. So, here it is. Now, anyone, just one person, just for now, and then we'll do it later. Anyone? Yeah. Come on, come on. It's a bit awkward, but it says 2 stones on there. There you go. Can you just hold that for me? Okay, just hold that for me. You got it? Yeah. Just stay there. Just wait there. And if you can get to try this later, it'd be great. And if you can, just imagine carrying this extra weight around with you all day, every day. The strain it's going to put on your bones, on your joints, on your organs, and on your heart. Okay? And in some ways, it's no surprise that our health service is in such a sorry state. Okay, Caesar, thank you. But please do try this later, because this is what's happened over the last 50 years. I hope it doesn't break the chair. You can go, mate. I'll call you back when I need you. And the next time you go out shopping, or you're on your local high street, Just take a moment and look out for the old people. And you will see plenty of little old ladies and little old men pottering around, going about their business. But when you do, just ask yourself, where are all the big old ladies and the big old men? And then think about my box. So, in 1980, 100 million adults around the world had type 2 diabetes. By 2014, that figure had climbed to 422 million, which was an increase of 390%. The World Health Organization estimates diabetes will be the 7th leading cause of death by 2030. Obesity rates in adults climbed from less than 10% of the population in 1960 to 30% by 2014. And saddest of all, both of these diseases are becoming ever more prevalent in our children. And the cost of treating diabetes and obesity in the UK alone is more than £30 billion every year, which is almost £600 million a week. And that's the price that we all pay for what is in the most part avoidable lifestyle diseases. And imagine what the NHS could do with that money, or how much shorter the wait for your next doctor's appointment might be. And while our life expectancy has increased, our health has seriously deteriorated since the end of the Second World War. We're surviving and living with illnesses longer than we did in the past, and it's crippling the NHS. And at the same time, the drugs companies are worth trillions. Because the food that we've been putting in our bodies has changed more radically, more quickly since the 1960s than at almost any other time in history. And it's no coincidence that this correlates with the growing levels of diseases such as diabetes and obesity and the overall decline in our health. It was reported recently, and this is shocking and depressing when you think about it, that my children's generation will be the first in history to have a shorter life expectancy than its parents. We're devolving, and we're being kept alive on a cocktail of drugs. We reported on a headline recently on VGN, and it read, "New technique may prevent the gruesome deaths of billions of male chicks." And there's been plenty of opposition for a long time against cage and battery hens, but there's another practice in the poultry industry which is less well known, although I doubt it's news to most of you. Male chicks are slaughtered simply because they don't grow fast enough to be economically viable, to be fattened up for meat. To dispose of them as quickly and as cheaply as possible, they're either shredded alive, they're gassed, or they're suffocated. And worst of all, this all happens before they're a day old. Egg producers call this shredding process maceration. Now, if someone was macerating live baby birds in their garden, instead of a big respectable business doing it to billions of them, witnesses would call the police, they would take the offender away, and they would lock him or her up. There would be outrage. After all, we're a nation of animal lovers, aren't we? And you know what? It doesn't matter what kind of industry can get away with doing this. How about what kind of industry would ever think of it, let alone consider it? The new technique, by the way, it identifies the gender of chicks before they hatch. And this technology may be ready to go in 5 or 6 years, which is around 20 to 30 billion chicks from now. So should we consider this progress? I guess we should. But then anything will be an improvement when the starting point is total, utter madness. So how can our self-proclaimed nation of animal lovers allow this? Why are we not doing everything in our power to stop it? Why are we not getting really angry about it and demanding that it stopped? Why are we not all standing together, waving banners and protesting outside the places where this evil happens? Why are we not taking to the streets and marching on the government? Isn't that what any compassionate, caring, animal-loving society or individual would do? Well, actually we are. But when we do, we're classed as troublemakers, extremists, fanatics, lefties, hippies, tree huggers, and fascists by the animal-loving population. We've even been compared to terrorists. As long as you continue to eat chicken and eggs, you are as guilty as the person with his finger on that macerator button. You are the reason he presses the button. Take a moment and think about it. I'm not religious. I don't know anything about reincarnation. But if we assume that you only get one life, then these little creatures deserve so much better than this. Few could deny that the evolution of factory farming has been hugely successful. Worldwide, it's worth trillions of dollars. But what's that worth when individually it means a life of extreme cruelty? The animal kingdom has known many types of pain and misery, yet the agricultural revolution has created completely new kinds of suffering. And suffering that only continues to worsen as demand and our population increases. Slaughterhouses have to be constantly washed clean of waste because in terror, many animals lose control of their bowels. I know this is no great revelation, but it's a reminder that farm animals suffer emotionally as well as physically. And in exactly the same way as you or I would. The agricultural revolution may well turn out to be the greatest crime in human history. Many will disagree, but if you measure crimes by the sheer amount of pain and misery they inflict on the largest number of beings, then this claim is not implausible. And if you doubt this, and it will even anger some people, let's take a quick look at some numbers for perspective. In any given year, the number of chickens slaughtered in Europe is more than the entire continent's population of wild birds of every species. It's more than 6 billion. Every week, more animals are killed for food than the total number of people killed in conflict and war throughout the entire 20th century. Every week. By 2050, there will be an estimated 9.7 billion people on Earth. To feed this number of people on the current Western diet, we'll need to breed, house, feed, and slaughter close to 100 billion animals every year. And to put that into perspective, it's nearly 2 billion a week, 275 million a day, and more than 3,000 every second of every minute of every day. This is the reality that awaits us. This is the future we have to look forward to. This is the future we are allowing to happen. But factory farms are far from the only way that we humans control the lives and deaths of animals. Cultures around the world are exploiting them in all sorts of hideous ways. In parts of China and South Korea, dogs are slaughtered for meat, where the belief is the more agony and stress they're put through, the better the meat tastes. Millions of wild creatures are killed or abused each year in the Far East for traditional medicines and even aphrodisiacs. In bear farms across parts of Asia, bile is extracted from their gallbladders because some believe it holds medicinal powers. The bears are housed continuously in small cages to prevent them from standing, from sitting, or even from turning around. And some bears are caught as cubs and are kept in these conditions for more than 20 years. And there's a demand for all of these products, just as there is for bacon and eggs here in the West. And if asked, those treating these animals in a way that anyone here would deem cruel, needless and barbaric would probably just make the same excuses that we do. In that to them, these practices are normal. It's their culture. It's the way it's always been. And how can we criticise these people in other cultures? Why should they have to restrain themselves or change what they've been doing for generations whilst we're torturing billions of farm animals? In the oceans, whales, dolphins endure long and painful deaths at the hands of the factory fishing vessels. Each year sealers club, chase, axe and often skin alive a few 100,000 pups for the fur trade. And hunters, they still think it's normal to stalk, to sneak up on and kill animals for no better reason than the thrill of it, capturing these moments by taking selfies with their trophies. But as horrific as all forms of exploitation, abuse and cruelty are, condemning them in any way will always be hypocritical as long as we continue our own systemic abuse. If you continue to pay for, to consume, to wear animal products, you're equally as guilty as the sealers, the hunters, the fishermen, the factory farmers, and the person in control of the macerator. Something future generations will surely notice is the rise of the animal rights movement of the early 21st century. Where there's abuse or wrongdoing towards animals, you'll see men and women, boys and girls, with the hearts of lions protesting and campaigning against it. But change will not come quickly, and it may not come at all unless we all unite and we all stand together. Changing what you eat and the shoes you wear is not enough. You have a voice, you have to make it heard. So instead of 30 of us at the next Save Vigil, I want there to be 300. Instead of a few people reaching out to the public in our major cities, I want to see groups in every town across the country. Instead of 2,000 people marching through London this year, I want there to be 20,000 or 200,000. And when this happens, the powers that be, the people who can make change, will have to listen to us. And when this happens, by force of numbers, this is the only way that real change can possibly happen. We should all be incredibly proud of what we've achieved, but in truth, we've barely left the starting blocks. Nothing's really changed. Animals are still dying in incalculable numbers. The planet's burning, and we're killing ourselves that turns a few people into billionaires. I want to see every person who, like me, like you, like us, believes with their hearts and souls that this insanity has to stop, to stand up, to take a step forward, and to say enough is enough. The way we treat the innocent and defenceless creatures in our care is one of the revealing marks that we will leave behind. It's the most fundamental of human responsibilities. It's how we will be remembered. Together, we can rid the world of these needless miseries. And among the gifts that we can offer posterity, they really don't come much better than that. One of my favourite quotes is by Margaret Mead, an American cultural anthropologist and speaker of the 1960s and 70s. She said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Thank you.
Wow, thanks very much. That was amazing.
Just to say, if you're interested in my blog or anything else I'm writing, or if you would like some of my recipes, go here, and you can also contact me on this website. Thanks again.
Brilliant.